So very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in our yet another webinar on how to make money through the financial market, or if I'll say the entire name, how to do wealth creation in India through financial markets and also do tax saving through various financial instruments. We are joined here by today from Mr. Aditya Kornawar. He's a partner and vice president, Complete Circuit Capital. We have received an overwhelming response for sure. We are almost going to touch 500. And thank you so much for anyone who kind of log out by any chance and not able to join because of any technical glitch. We just wanted to inform that we are also live on LinkedIn. So we can also check us on LinkedIn. So with all the virtual applause we can make for Mr. Aditya, I will give him a brief introduction here. Aditya, he's a partner and vice president with Complete Circuit Capital, a company with asset under management of over rupees 4,300 crore. Complete Circuit Capital is a holistic financial services provider to retail investors, HNI, UHNIs, family offices, educational, temple trust. They have offices in 9 locations across India. Aditya is one of the most well-known Indian Twitter finance educator with over 1.1 lakh followers on Twitter and over 35,000 followers on LinkedIn. So before we go ahead with this webinar, please search Twitter and LinkedIn in a jiffy in your phones and in your laptop and desktop. Please follow Aditya for any of the updates as far as the financial markets is concerned. Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining NISM today. Thank you so much for accepting our invitations. Now it is over to you. Thank you so much. Participants, in case you have any questions during the webinar, you can type it in the chat window. Once the webinar is over, we will take the question answer session after that. Thanks, Aditya. Please, over to you.
So a big thank you to Harshada ji and NISM for having me. In fact, NISM has had and it still has a very special place in my heart. It was where I got a huge exposure to the equity markets. It was where I could actually follow my passion. And I believe that, the various courses at NISM give you that exposure, right? So if you are actually looking out for a career in the financial markets, you can definitely check out some courses at NISM. So, we have gathered here today, and I thank all 504 participants who have joined in on the webinar. And I don't know how many have joined on LinkedIn, but I'm sure the number must be large. So I thank all of you for giving me time on a weekday afternoon. Today we are going to talk about how to do wealth creation in the markets. So, this is a vast topic, but, I'm going to cover a lot of subtopics in this. I'm going to tell you why it is a good time to invest in India right now, why it is a good time to get started on your investing journey, why India is placed in a very sweet spot, and what are some of the leading indicators that gives us this confidence. And lastly, and the last 2 topics are, of course, going to be how can you actually, start investing through various financial instruments. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages associated with all of these instruments? And lastly, I'm going to touch upon tax saving through financial instruments, and also going to give you a live case study on how you can balance your finances in life. So having said that, let's move forward. So I hope the slide is clearly visible to everybody. So, usually whenever I give out this presentation, this is my first slide. This presentation is not for anyone who wants to double their money in the next 25 days. So this is a very famous dialogue from Fir Hera Fairy, and basically shows you the nature of human greed. It basically shows you that when he tried to double his money in the next 25 days, he lost it all, right? So before I start out, I just want to clarify this myth about the investing and markets in general, that the stock markets are not a gambling den, right? There is no ikkis din mein paisa double, there is no 25 din mein paisa double, right? Investing is like any other business. When you are investing in the markets, make sure that you research what you're getting into, and at the same time make sure that you give it enough time. So whenever I talk about investing, I like to talk about it like planting a sapling. So when you plant a seed or a sapling, right, you plant it, you take care of it through various rough weathers, various nice weathers. You water it every day. And maybe at the end of 7, 10 years, is when you can actually enjoy the sweet fruits of it, right? So investing is just like that. You have to do your hard work of research. You have to give it time. There will be good times, there will be very bad times, but you don't have to go anywhere. You just have to take care of a little seed, that little seed of investment, right? So starting out, let's talk about India. Before I actually tell you what are some of the instruments through wealth creation, I want to talk about India, because India today is in a very sweet spot. In fact, there was a very famous image that came out recently, which said that the probability of recession in India is close to zero. So it surveyed 25 to 30 countries, and the chances of inflation in some countries is as high as 60 to 80%. But in India, surprisingly, and luckily for us as investors, it's close to 0%. So if you look at the pace of uh, the GDP growth for India, right? So our first $1 trillion took 63 years. The next $1 trillion was 7 years, then 3 years for the next third $1 trillion, then 4 years to the fourth trillion. And people are saying that we will add the next $1 trillion to our GDP size in the next 3.5 years. So number one point, India's growth is very good, right? And when you actually look at Indian markets, right, it is the fifth largest globally, but the India's weightage in the Bloomberg Global Index is still less than 2%. So this is obviously going to change, and there has been some news flow around the same. So if you even look at India's contribution to world GDP, right, when in the year 2000 it was close to 2.7%, and in the year 2022 we are closer to 5.1, and of course we're going to reach 8% by the end of this decade, so which is like 2029 or 2030. So this image basically tells you about the good things of India, where we are, where we will be. We A lot of foreign brokerages and famous wealth management outfits have said that we are going to be the third largest economy by 2030. And some people are even saying that we are going to be almost a $7 to $8 trillion economy by the end of 2030. For the uninitiated, we are close to $4 trillion today, which means that in the next 6 to 7 years, we're almost going to double our economy size. Again, talking about, what we are basically doing here is that, we are looking at India from a stock point of view, right? So whenever you look at a particular stock or a financial instrument, right, you look at various attributes of the stock or the financial instrument. So that is what we are doing here right now. I'm building the case for India. So we are going to look at various factors that constitute this financial instrument called India. So firstly, we have spoken about the macro view. Now we are going to talk about the banking system. Now, whenever our economy has to double, right, say from a $4 trillion to $8 trillion economy size, right, it will only happen with the help of credit. Now, credit is the backbone of any economy. So when I say that our GDP will double, the banking system will not just double. It can even triple, and it will even quadruple. So the economy doubling will not just attractively benefit the banking sector, but a lot of other sectors as well. So this slide basically tells you that the return on asset and the bad asset quality in the economy has improved a lot. Which was as high as 10-11%, it has now come down to 3-4%, right? So this is a good thing, right? Because uh, the banking system in general in India is not really burdened with bad debt. The banks are doing well, their return ratios have improved, and they are doing well. They are posting record net profits. So this slide again basically tells you the same, that corporate profit as a percentage of GDP is on the rise. Bad loans are down, and not just that. Companies in general, corporate India, if I have to generalize it, right? Their debt to equity ratio has also reduced, which means that companies have reduced their debt by paying it off through their profits. So, I've been talking about India a lot, and you must be thinking, why is this guy just talking about India? I have given you a few points, right? Of course. But, when it comes to the main factor while choosing any investment, right, it is the return factor. So if I talk about India in the past, say 10, 15, 20 years, you can see that it has outperformed other markets as well. So for example, over the past 20 years, Indian markets has given you a 14.7% CAGR, which means that the Nifty 50 index has given you 14.5% return every single year for the last 20 years. This effectively means that you are doubling your money every 4.5 to 5 years. Now, when I talk about US equity, it has given you a return of 13.2%. Again, 13.2% return every year for the past 20 years. Gold is closer to 12%. Real estate is close to 8.2%. And debt, meaning your fixed deposit or bonds or NCTs, has given closer to 7.2 to 8%. So I think this slide is the main thesis on why you should actually invest in Indian markets. Because number one, we are placed in a very sweet spot. And number two, Indian markets have performed historically very well. And they're expected to perform even better going ahead because we are in this sweet spot, like I have given you all those points before. So this is a very beautiful chart that basically tells you everything about investing, right? So Nifty 50 since July 1990 to January 2024, it has multiplied 77 times in the last 33, 34 years, right? So compounding over a long period of time can work wonders for you. So the biggest example of compounding is, of course, Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala or Mr. Warren Buffett, right? They started investing very early on, and they have stayed invested in the markets for almost 50, 60 years, right? And that CAGR has been amazing for them. In fact, whenever I talk about compounding, I give this example of Mr. Warren Buffett. So he bought his first stock at the age of 14 or 15. He became a billionaire at the age of 61. 72, at the age of 72, his net worth was $10 billion. And today, at the age of 94 or 95, his worth 115, $120 billion. So, it took almost 60 years to build his first billion, and the next billion was just the next 100 billion was just like that, right? So this is what compounding looks like. It starts off very slow, and you have to give a lot of efforts in the start, but after that, it's like a snowball effect. You can't really stop that snowball effect. And not just that, if you look at the decade ending 2020, 2021, right? India has produced the most amount of 10 baggers, which means that the a particular stock which was 100, which was 1 rupee, has become 100, which has become 10 rupees. So uh, the value of your investment has multiplied by 10 times, right? So the percentage for India is the highest at 20%. So out of the NSE 500, 100 stocks have become 10 baggers. In the Nasdaq, the percentage is 10%, which is like 50 companies. S&P 500 is 7%, which is like 35 companies, and China is like 2-3%, which is very less. In fact, I have given you some examples over there. Avanti Feeds, Alkali Mines, Deepak Nitrite are some of the stocks which have become 10 baggers. So, what are some things that are actually taking India to, say, a $7 trillion economy or $8 trillion economy or even a $10 trillion economy, right? So, there are various factors. Number one is, of course, consumption. You go to any airport today, you go to any restaurant today, you go to any movie theater today, you go to any shopping mall today, especially if you're in Delhi, go to any of the big shopping centers over there, right? So you would see that people are spending as if the world is about to end today. You go to any airport lounge, it's always full. So Indians are spending like never before. They are buying bigger cars, bigger homes. Indians have become very aspirational. They're upgrading their houses. They're spending more on their non-discretionary expenses. They like to dress well. They like to eat well. They like to live well. So this consumption boom is actually fueling a lot of growth in the economy as well, right? Just last week I was reading this interview by the Lamborghini India CEO, and he was saying that all of their cars are sold out for the next 2 years. In fact, India is one of the priority markets for them, and India is the only market where 25 to 30-year-olds are buying Lamborghinis as well. Number two is, of course, infra investments. Infra has gotten a very big push in the budget that was just concluded recently, interim budget. Uh, in fact, our honorable finance minister in a budget speech had said that creating 1 rupee of infra actually leads to a multiplier effect in the economy. So 1 rupee actually leads to 3 rupees of revenue being generated in the economy. So infra is what will take India to the next level. Of course, India is building like never before. If you're from Mumbai, you would have seen the way they have constructed the metro lines, the new Mumbai Trans Harbour Link, the coastal link. Now they are creating a new airport. New airports are being created in India. New ports are being created. In fact, Honorable Prime Minister also in his India Today conclave said that, infra will be given a very big push in the budget that will happen post the elections, right? So definitely, this multiplier effect is well recognized by the government, and it leads to a multiplier effect, and a lot of investments will happen in the economy. Third is, of course, corporate capex. What is really happening is that a lot of big companies are putting up capital expenditures. So, for example, the Tata Group, the Adani Group, the Reliance Group, they are putting up huge capexes. They are getting into semiconductors, they're getting into space, they're getting into green power. They are putting up extremely huge capexes, right? For example, Tata Group for like since their inception to last year, they had just done a capex of $100 billion. And the chairman in a recent interview said that they're going to spend again $100 billion in the next decade. So all of these statements carry a lot of weight because all of these corporates are betting big on India. And of course, innovation will also drive the economy going ahead. If I have to talk about innovation, then of course, we are the lowest cost producers of medicines globally. UPI and ONDC, something UPI, for example, it was created in India, but now, everybody, a lot of almost 20, 30 countries across the globe are now using it. So a lot of innovation is taking place in India, and I'm sure that we'll be able to harness this innovation and even export it, as we have seen in the case of UPI. So India today is like China in 2007, right? And we all know what happened after 2007 for China. They just took off on another level. So our per capita income also crossed $2,500 recently, and this is a very crucial mark because economists and analysts say that whenever a country crosses a $2,500 per capita GDP income, right, the consumption and the economic boom is multifold going ahead. Again, just coming to India, India's share of exports in a lot of goods and services is increasing. So electronics, we were at 7%, we're at 9%. Agriculture, we were at 9%, now we're at 12%. So a lot of good work is happening. Government also has given a very big push to manufacturing and localized manufacturing in particular. So I'm just going to skip this. This again tells you that a lot of so what is basically happening is that India is doing rapid urbanization, and at the same time, what is happening that a lot of people are entering a higher and higher income bracket. So, for example, so the higher level middle class people today are 31 crores, which will reach 35 crores. The high income families will be almost triple, almost 2.5x from what it is today. But the biggest impact would be in the middle income group, the middle class group, which will almost double from 10 crores to 16.5 crore households. So again, this will have a very big impact on the spending patterns, on the consumption patterns in the economy. So now that I have told you everything about India, it's time to tell you how to invest in the Indian markets, right? So, there are various ways to invest in the markets, and, before I tell you about this, you should know that there is no perfect approach to investing in the markets. There is only a perfect approach for you, right? So, for example, if I may be doing mutual funds and direct equity, it may happen that you may do a PMS, you may do a direct equity on your own, you may do a index fund, you may not do investing at all because it does not suit you, right? So what may work for me may not necessarily work for you, right? So having said that, having given that disclaimer, SIPs, if you, I'm sure everybody would have heard about SIPs. So SIP has been marketed as a very good tool. And let me tell you, it is a very good tool because, number one, it helps you systematically invest in the markets every month. Number two, when the markets are up, you're in profit. When the markets are down, you get to buy more of the mutual fund units, right? So for a retail investor who has no time, who has no idea about the markets, right? What he should do is that he should focus on his 9 to 5 so that he can keep earning his income and focus more on upskilling himself so that he can earn more income and leave the rest to the experts. So over here in SIPs, what you can do is that you can buy into 3 to 5 funds, assuming that you want to invest 50,000 rupees every month. You could buy around 4 to 5 funds. You can allocate anywhere from 10 to 12,000 in each fund, and you can let it go for the next 6, 7 years. Now, again, the reason why I'm telling you let it go for the next 6 7 years is because one economic cycle is close to 8 years. Now, India's GDP growth is close to 7.5%, which means that it will take almost 9 to 10 years for an economy to double. So, if you want to truly enjoy the benefits of a economic doubler, right, in the next 7 8 years, you should stay invested for the next 7 8 years. And like I said before, and I'm repeating myself, when the economy doubles, the sectors will not just double. They'll do 3x, they'll do 4x, they'll do 5x. Who knows? They can even do a 10x, right? So, for example, sectors like manufacturing, which are very nascent today, they can even see a greater rally than all the other sectors. Number two, see, if you are related to the markets, for example, I'm related to the markets. My day in and day out work is to do financial planning. It is to do equity research. It is to help out people in their investing journey. Then you can actually allocate some more. You can allocate time to finding out good equities. You can allocate time to find out some good mutual funds, and then you can do a do-it-yourself approach, right? Because over there you have your own skin in the game and you are well versed with everything. So you understand what kind of return you can expect and what kind of risks are present. Number three, there are a few HNI products such as a PMS and the AIF, right? So PMS minimum ticket size is 50 lakhs today, and AIF minimum ticket size is 1 crore. But for some AMCs or some companies, they even take 5 crore as a minimum ticket size. So again, depending upon your time availability, your research skills and other things, you can either try to go into one of these products. One thing in mutual funds and PMS and AIF, in fact, you should consider before entering into it is to see the fund manager style. You should see the fund manager. You should see the historical track record, and you can also see the churn, the amount of selling the fund is doing. See, because if some fund is saying that they are a long-term fund and they have a churn ratio of say 100%. So a churn ratio of 100% means that they have sold the entire portfolio and they have rebought it. So they are not a long only fund. They are a trading fund, right? Because they have sold the entire portfolio and bought it back. They have bought some other portfolio back. So make sure that you take care of these few attributes and then get into a particular fund. And before doing all of this, there are a few personal finance checks. Before you invest a single rupee in the markets, make sure that you have a health insurance, you have a term insurance, you maintain some emergency corpus, and at the same time, make sure that you follow proper asset allocation. So if you're talking about wealth creation with a certain amount of risk, then equity is your answer. If you're looking to preserve your capital, assuming that you want to invest in the markets for just the next 2 3 years because you need that money back, then you can invest in a good debt fund. Number three, say real estate. I personally don't like a lot, but if you have a certain liking towards it, then you can even consider playing real estate. Number four, gold. I don't need to tell you anything because Indians have historically loved gold, and we are going to keep loving gold as we are going to love gold till eternity. So even gold can be a good option to your portfolio. In fact, sovereign gold bond scheme that has been launched by the government has been really amazing. It has given returns in excess of 10.5 11%. And lastly, this asset class has really emerged in the last 2 3 years. Alternate classes can actually include crypto. It can include some token coins. It can include art. It can include some other form of complex asset class which is not easily recognizable, right? Obviously, I mean, I don't recommend getting into the alternate class because liquidity can be very low, but you should try to play in these four major assets. So if I were to tell you about my personal asset allocation, the majority of it is in equity, a little bit of it is in debt, and some of it is in real estate as well, right? So just to reiterate, before you put a single rupee into the markets, make sure that you follow proper asset allocation. You follow a few personal finance hygiene checks, and then you're good to go. See, the reason why I have told you this is because assume that you have a investable corpus of say 1 crore, and you put all of it into the markets, and I hope not, but you get an emergency, right? You get a medical emergency, right? And you don't have a health insurance. So it may very well happen that you may have to liquidate all of your portfolio at a bad time when the markets are not doing well. So you not just break your compounding journey, but at the same time, the invested amount of 1 crore, when you liquidate it, may be worth 60 70 lakhs, right? You can see, you can never say never in the markets. Anything can happen. Markets can crash tomorrow. The markets can rise, but the can rise exponentially in the next week, right? So make sure that you have a safety wall built, right? So whenever we build a tall building, right, the foundation has to be very strong. So in the context of investing, that personal finance, those insurances, that emergency corpus, that asset allocation is like a strong foundation, right? So if you want your investing building to go tall, make sure that this personal finance foundation is very strong. So I think this is part one of my presentation. I can take a few questions at this time, and then I can move to the second part of the presentation. So should I take questions from the chat box? So what I will do is that I'll just take a few questions from the chat box. Uh, okay, just let me make the chat window bigger so that I can see a lot of questions at the same time. So Makineni Prasad asks me that, when did I actually started investing? I started investing in equity. So I started investing in 2012. So I was 17 that time. I was in college, and we used to get some pocket money from our homes, right? So of course, any amount of money was little for us, and we thought, okay, let's try to. So a few of my classmates used to dabble in IPOs, and looking at them making money, I thought, okay, I'll do the same, and then I made good money from it, and then one thing led to the other, and then that's how I have continued my journey in the markets. So Gopendra Singh says that, how to do asset allocation. So again, Gopendra ji, the thing is, यहाँ पे asset allocation is very personal. I have met people who have 90% in real estate and 10% in equity. I have met people who have 100% equity allocation. It's all about what really works for you, right? Now, equity is a highly liquid asset. It will give you good growth. It will give you volatility. Debt is a very safe product. It will give you 7 to 8%, very safe, very liquid. Real estate is not liquid at all, and you have to do a huge investment in it. It's got a huge ticket size, right? Gold, again, it depends from person to person. You can put it in SDBs. You can buy some so that you can pass it on to the next generation. And alternate classes, again, like I said, this is reserved strictly for the rich, wherein they buy watches, they buy wine, they buy art, etc., right? So Chandni Majumdar ji asked that what is the basic rule for asset allocation? So I think I answered that just now. You have to actually plot a chart where you know the pros and cons of a particular asset. So for example, it's very simple. Okay, Chandni ji, it's very simple. What you have to do is this. Assuming that I say that I'm at 1 crore today, and I want to reach 2 crores in the next 6 years, right? So debt is not going to give me that. Gold is not going to give me that. Real estate may or may not give me at the risk of liquidity. So the only asset class that remains with me is equity. See, because equity has given you 14.5%, which means that in the next 4.5 to 5 years, आपका 1 crore to 2 crore होने ही वाला है. So if you're not able to decide on your asset allocation, do a reverse calculation where you are today, where you want to be. So it's very important for you to decide your portfolio goals and your personal finance goals, and that goal will actually help you decide कि आपको क्या proportion में कौन से asset में डालना है. So is there any difference between portfolio churn ratio and portfolio turnover ratio? I think is the no no is the same thing. Churn and turnover is the same thing. So assuming that a portfolio a particular mutual fund has 100% churn ratio, it means that the entire portfolio was sold and then bought back again. So it means that assuming it had 20 stocks, those 20 stocks were sold, and then again new 20 stocks were bought. So REITs and construction companies, Amaya K is asking. So see, REITs are a good option अगर आपको if you're looking at fixed investment. And companies like Godrej Oberoi are good for investment. See, honestly, I'm not going to comment on individual stock names here, sadly. But see, when we are talking about infra, I think many construction companies will also do well. And without recommending any names, I just want to say that the construction sector had gone through a very bad phase. It started with the IL&FS crisis, then you had GST, you had RERA, you had COVID. What has really happened was that a lot of unorganized sector players who did not have the necessary certifications went out of the market. So a lot of listed developers did well. So for example, DLF is at all-time high. Oberoi, Godrej, all of these companies are doing very well, right? So you can definitely look at them. You can definitely look at a good, good quality builder who has a good pipeline going ahead. So Vijay Nigutgar is asking, can you tell a few sectors which will outperform in the next 5 years? So Vijay, that's a very good question. In fact, I have a few slides going ahead in the presentation on the same. Nitesh is asking, see, we as Indians aiming to become third largest economy, but how important will the politics will play a part in the growth? So that's a brilliant question. I think Nitesh ji, politics will play a defining role because as you may also very well know, right? India never really had a political stability in the country. I think this is going to be the third term when we have a continuous party, a continuation in the political regime. And the government also has made its intent clear as to how they want to grow the economy. How they are going to tackle each sector. So you're absolutely right. Political stability plays the biggest role, I would believe, for a economy to grow and for a country to break free, right? So yeah. So McKinney is saying my age is 27 and I have a 20 stock portfolio. I want to take more risk and invest in 10 to 12 small and micro cap stocks. Few have given 6-bagger returns like Ace. Do you recommend this strategy to follow or no, sir? See, McKinney, the thing is, again, this is very personal. Uh, so you are running a fairly diversified portfolio and you're taking a lot of risk by investing in smaller companies, which is fair. And I think given your age, right, I think you have that risk-taking appetite as well. As you age, right, you have to shift that towards more conservative or towards more stable names, right? So the question is not about me recommending something, but the question is whether you like this strategy and whether it gives you peaceful sleep. If if it's really giving you a lot of pain, anguish, it is giving you sleepless nights, then definitely, I mean, you should try retweaking it because see, what is overrated is the return, what is underrated is the peace of mind. So whatever you do, make sure that it's suiting you, is making money for you. You are also taking care of uh, the risk factors, and is giving you peaceful sleep. That's about it. Okay, so Praveen Joshi has a question. What should be the ideal CAGR one can strive for so that one always beats inflation? I think Praveen ji, आपने अपना question खुद ही answer कर दिया. You make sure that you invest in a basket of securities or basket of financial instruments so that you are beating the inflation by a good amount of by a big gap, right? Because if someone was to invest his whole life savings in an FD, right, which is which gives you 7.5% pre-tax and post-tax is closer to 4.5%. You're basically earning 4% less than inflation, right? So your value will go to zero in the next 15-20 years. You're not earning money, you're reducing your money every year, right? So make sure that whatever you're investing into, that blended return of that portfolio is closer to 14, 15, 16%, right? अगर और भी आ गया तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. But like I said before, right, when we talk about the compound interest formula, right? So what people focus on more is the rate of interest. What people don't focus on is the number of years. See, Warren Buffett's CAGR is not 35, 40%. It was closer to 20 to 23%, right? But the biggest impact on his portfolio was because of the number of years. See, he started investing at the age of 15, 16, right? He has been invested in the market for 70, 75, 80 years. So that has had a massive impact. So return expectation should be clear, return expectation should be realistic, and what should be worked on instead is the time in the market, right? So that is a brilliant formula to compound your money. So Bala Subramaniam has a very interesting question: how to handle new investors? There is too much of noise in the markets. So I think it's a brilliant question because the problem uh, the problem 20 30 years back in the market was that there was very little information. In fact, for a simple annual report you had to run around the whole city. And today the problem is completely opposite. You have so much information that actionable information has become very scarce, or you have to work hard to find it. So my only suggestion is that instead of relying on secondary information, which is say TV interviews, which is say some research reports, make sure that you do your own primary research before, right? Make sure that you also understand the fundamentals of investing and fundamentals of a particular financial product. See, you have to become Atmanirbhar in your own approach, right? Nobody, see, there was a very famous quote that I had read last year. It said that nobody is going to help you. Your doctors are not going to help you. Your wealth advisors are not going to help you. So so you stay healthy. You exercise. You stay up to date with all the information. Understand why you're investing into a particular product. See, I'm not telling you to allocate 5 6 hours every day to reading, but just 10 15 minutes every day, or maybe an hour or two during a weekend, to just stay updated about what is happening in a particular financial product. In fact, even if you do SIP, make sure that every year or every second year you're trying to just keep a track of it. What is happening inside the portfolio? What is the fund manager doing? Why have you actually invested in this product in the first place, right? So these basic things you can anytime do. So Nimish Sunil has an interesting question. He has asked that he's 22 and what should be his investment savings contingency ratio. So Nimish, I'll break it down by part, and I'll take this as the last question before I move to the second part of the presentation. See, investment is something which is very personal. So when I started my first job, I used to invest 100% of my income, right? Savings, again, this can be a liquid. So savings and contingency ratio can be one and the same. Wherein assuming that out of 100 rupees that you earn every month, assume that 25% you can invest every month. So 25% is a part of your salary which you can forego for the next 7 to 10 years. Okay. So you have to decide this percentage by thinking to yourself, what is a part of my salary which I can forego for the next 7 to 10 years. So number one, that is how you decide a percentage. And number two, savings, right? Emergency corpus. So this is again very person to person specific. So usually I maintain 6 months of I maintain 4 months of my income as an emergency corpus. Some people maintain 6 months, some people maintain 12 months, some people may not even maintain it in the first place. So this is a very personal kind of approach, and every person will have a different approach towards what kind of a percentage they're saving in the markets and what kind of a percentage are they actually allocating towards the emergency corpus ratio, basically. But again, what you have to do over here is you have to do a back calculation, right? Number one, you have to decide how much amount you have to forego for the next few years and how much amount you want to reach to. Do you want to reach an emergency corpus of 6 months of salary? You want to reach a corpus of 12 months of salary, right? So that is how you do it. So I'll stop the Q&A here. I'll just move forward. So one of the best instruments that is there in the markets, right? Which I usually like to say is that with one arrow you can basically hit two targets, is the ELSS, which is the equity linked savings scheme. So number one target that it hits is your tax saving, and number two, it also helps you do wealth creation, right? Because ELSS is as the name suggests, it's a equity linked savings scheme, right? So it helps you save tax and it helps you invest in the markets. When we talk about tax saving instruments, right, we have four major tax saving instruments. You have a bank FD, you have the NSC, which is the National Savings Certificate, you have a public provident fund, and number four is the equity linked savings scheme, which is the ELSS. Now, of course, PPF, when I talk about the lock-in, right? So the lock-in is basically for what amount of years you have to stay invested in it. Uske pehle you can't really withdraw the product, or else the tax benefits go. So the lowest is of course ELSS at 3 years. The PPF says 15 years, but at the end of after the seventh year, you can withdraw 40% of it. And if you have a medical emergency, if you have a medical emergency, or if you have a wedding at home, you can withdraw 50 to 60% of it if you have the valid documents. Now, if I talk about the nature of gains, FD is 7 to 8%, NSC is closer to 8-9%, PPF is again 7-7.25% के आसपास है. But ELSS, as we will see in the slides ahead, it is more than 14%. So, ELSS in terms of the lock-in, in terms of the nature of gains, in terms of the tax treatment of gains, it is the far more superior product. So in fact, if you invest 1.5 lakhs in a ELSS product, your tax savings can be as high as 53,000 rupees. Again, of course, this is subject to a lot of other things. Number one is that if you're in the old tax regime, if you're in the highest tax bracket. So, whenever I calculate whenever you think about ELSS, and if you're in the highest tax bracket, the calculation is very simple. You end up saving 30 to 35% tax, and at the end, and top of it, you earn returns in excess of 14-15%. So that's almost a 45 to 50% gain for you straight up, right? So again, like I was alluding to earlier, ELSS funds will give you positive real returns adjusted for inflation. They don't just help you save tax, but they will also help you in wealth creation. And again, this is just a slide to tell you that, how inflation has been, and what are the kind of returns that you need to expect. So again, coming back, if you talk about the performance of Sensex in the last 10 years, right? So 3 years. So this is actually giving you the maximum, minimum, and the average returns. So 3 years average return has been 14.7%. 5 years has been 14.3. So more or less, if you have a 10-year long-term period horizon for your investments, you can earn comfortably 14 to 15% returns, right? So again, I'll just keep this slide open for you to go through. I think this is what I have just said before. It has a lower lock-in period. It has good tax benefits. It has operational ease. You can, like I said, it has twin benefits. One is tax saving, and the other is wealth creation potential. So, there was this study that I did recently for a client of mine. So, if you have EMI, if you have say a house loan going on, right? And of course, EMIs can be burdening, right? So you want to pay off you want to make that EMI go to zero as soon as possible, right? So I basically did a scenario testing for a client of mine. So, he took a home loan of 70 lakhs for 20 years at a 8.5% interest. So his EMI came closer to 60,000 rupees. So what is basically happening is in the 20 years, he'll pay 70 lakh as the principal and almost 76 lakhs as interest. So he'll pay mota moti 1.45 crores in total. So what he can actually do is that, he can start a SIP, which is 17% of the EMI amount. So which is say 10,000 rupees. Now, if you invest this 10,000 rupees per month through SIP mode for the next 20 years, and you get a very realistic and very simple return of say 15% every year, he will end up with 1.52 crore rupees at the end of 20 years. So he will not just cover the principal amount, but he'll also cover the interest amount. So there are more scenarios. If you just want to cover the interest cost, you can do a SIP, which is like 8 to 9% of the SIP of the EMI amount. So continuing the example, if he starts a SIP of 5,000 rupees, he'll have 76 lakh rupees after 20 years. So entire cost of interest was covered through this SIP. And of course, there's one more scenario where he starts for 30% of the EMI amount, and then of course, he can more than pay for the interest principal and still be left with a good amount of corpus. So SIP plus EMI is a killer combo. And of course, no need, if you don't have a EMI, then even better, because that whole SIP can be your wealth that you garner at the end of 7-10 years. So someone had asked me basically that, what are some sectors that will do well going ahead, right? So this is the last part of my presentation, and I had kept this presentation especially for that, because see, you guys also should get actionable insights, right? You are going to give me almost 1 hour of your valuable time, so might as well make it worth, right? So the number one sector that we feel is going to do very well is the pharmaceutical sector. You know, uh, in during the Y2K time, right, which was the 1999 and 2000s, IT was a very big theme. And now pharma outsourcing is the same big theme. So when we talk about CRAM, CDMO, so it is basically contract research and manufacturing services and contract development manufacturing organization. So this is basically outsourcing of pharma functions, pharma research to Indian companies. So we have a lot of leaders here. Uh, we have a lot of innovators here. So a company like Biocon, it is one of the best companies in biosimilars in the world. And just a disclaimer, some of the names that I'm taking here are not recommendations at all. I'm just giving them out as an example to show you their innovative prowess or their manufacturing prowess. You have a company like Divis Labs, which makes API, which is nothing but active pharmaceutical ingredients. They are the raw materials for pharma tablets, basically. So in fact, there's a very interesting statistic that I had found out. December 2022, the market cap of TCS was more than the combined market cap of the entire pharma universe of India. So that was a very good time to actually get into pharma stocks because the pessimism, the negativity around these stocks was the highest. And when there is blood on the street, you should actually go ahead and buy it, given that you have done your fundamental study and you have a good conviction on that sector or those stocks. So next is financialization or financials. Like I had said earlier, right? If when we are actually moving from $4 to $8 trillion economic size, the financial sector will play a very big role, right? Because credit is the backbone of the economy. Not everybody can and will go out and sell their companies. They're going to take huge loans. They're going to take working capital loans. They're going to take capital expenditure loans. You just take a look at the working capital loans of Adani Group or Tata Group or Ambani Group, right? They run into the lakhs of crores. So my point being that when we talk about the economy growing, the financial sector will also grow. So these are just some facts towards financialization. Equity investment as a percentage of household savings has gone up. Number of demat accounts, which was 4.5 crores pre-COVID, is now closer to almost 12, 13 crores. Then again, the SIP monthly contribution, which used to be closer to $1 billion in February 21, is now closer to $2.5 billion as of January 2024. In fact, the SIP, the systematic investment plan monthly contribution, has been breaching one peak after the other. Right. So these are some of the sectors trends we are watching. Like I said before, there is capital expenditure, there is defense, there is manufacturing, and then there is mobility. So mobility basically means that the future of travel, which is like EV, etc. So if you remember the first part of my presentation, I was also talking about the infrastructure spend, the capital expenditure spend, right? So when you talk about the FY24 budget for capital expenditure in the economy, it is at 10 lakh crores. So this is at the highest level ever, right? So it is a 33% increase over the last year, and as a percentage of GDP, it's the highest at 3.3%. So when I talk about capital expenditure, you can look at sectors like capital goods. You can look at companies like infrastructure. You can look at road builders. Again, this is not a strong recommendation, but what you have to actually think is that when 1 rupee of asset is being created in the economy, so who will benefit the most, and who is actually creating that 1 rupee of infra in the economy, right? So when I'm talking about this 10 lakh crore of infra being created in the economy, who's going to benefit, who's going to get the orders, right? So you have to think that way. Of course, solar defense is a very big theme. One second, sorry. Yeah. So when I talk about the defense budget of India, right? Again, we are at almost 6 lakh crores this year. In fact, Pune last month itself, there was a Pune Defense Expo, and I had gone there. So what India is doing right now is that they're undergoing a massive modernization plan. We are building a few aircraft carriers. We are replacing our Air Force squadrons. India needs. So basically, we need a group of 32 jets in our squadron to be mission ready, and currently we're at just 22, 23, right? So not just that, there's a lot of new capital expenditure being happening, a lot of a lot of localized manufacturing is being done. So I have given you the example of one stock, right? So Solar Industries. So basically, it's a very interesting story. In fact, Solar Industries. So the founder of the company used to sell explosives on his bicycle when he started out 25, 27 years back. And today, it has completely transformed into a very different company. They are into defense, they are into solar, they do Pinaka missile casings, they offer warheads, they are into explosives, right? In fact, some of their applications include the Pinaka rocket, the BrahMos missiles, etc., etc. So just like solar, try to find some good companies which will benefit from this increased defense budget, right? So energy again, what is really happening. In fact, there is a fact that 25% of 22 to 25% of India's power gets wasted, right? So because this is due to inefficient transmission, this is due to power theft, this is due to bad monitoring, this is due to the grid being inefficient, right? So a lot of work will happen in the energy sector and the green energy sector. So if I have to just talk about the wire and cable market in India, it is close to 1 lakh crore, right? Transmission line market is close to 2.5 lakh crores. In fact, the Honorable Prime Minister recently launched a Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana where 2 crore households will get rooftop solar power system. So again, a lot of metering, wire and cable, transmission systems will be used there. So this is what I was alluding to earlier. So India can basically save almost 10 lakh crore rupees if they invest 1.5 lakh crore rupees by installing smart meters. So 25 crore, legacy meters have to be replaced by smart meters. So this is again about the green energy part of it. India is trying to. So India is basically dependent on a lot of imports for its energy demands. In fact, that is the reason why when oil prices shoot up, right, India actually runs into a deficit because then we have to pay higher, and our imports are more than exports, right? So to actually take India to greater heights as well, we have to reduce our import bill, and green energy, thankfully, is giving us that opportunity. In fact, from FY17 to FY23, we have grown our green energy solar capacity very well. From almost 13 gigawatts, we have come to 67 gigawatts, right? So in fact, we have done well on all the fronts. The world's largest solar power park is in Bhadla, which is by Adani. In fact, it is so big that you can see it from space. So again, green energy will see a lot of players. You look at solar power players, players who are actually generating this green energy. And again, you can look at the whole ecosystem, who is making that solar power module, that cell, etc., etc. So this is the whole manufacturing landscape of India. So over here as well, you can find a lot of companies. So you can look at a company. So you can look at companies from the textile sector. You can look at autos. You can look at semiconductors. Again, Tata Group is going to get very big here in semiconductors. So again, I have given you a few examples. If I talk about the Indian electronics manufacturing, right? It has gone up from $75 billion to $102 billion, and the government's target is to make it 3x in the next 3 years, right? So a very tall target, right? In fact, Apple is a very big success story in India because it manufactures 7% of its iPhones in India versus 1% earlier. In fact, Apple wants to make 1 out of every 4 iPhones in India by 2025. Again, a very big example of this is Dixon Technologies. When Mr. Vachani actually started the company, it was into cathode ray tube TVs. But today they have almost, I think, 15, 17 product lines. They make everything from LED TVs to washing machines to phones, etc., etc. So mobility, I think, will also play a very big future, like I said, because India wants to reduce its dependence on fossil fuels, which is your petrol, which is a crude oil basically, and then you make petrol, diesel, etc. out of it. So number one way is, of course, to make sure that you move away from thermal, nuclear, etc. Thermal to green energy, and at the same time make sure that your mobility in the country, and we are a country of 140 to 143 people, 143 crore people, right? So we also have to make sure that we move towards the future, right? So replacing our automobiles by EVs will also play a very big role in reducing our import bill. So, over here also you have a lot of auto companies and auto ancillaries who are actually working towards that. There are companies which manufacture these electric vehicles. Then there are tens of companies which actually help in manufacturing the components for the EVs. So make sure that you try to find those companies. And again, I have given you the EV penetration forecast diagram. So today we are closer to 4.5%. This will almost go to 25 to 30% in the next 5 years. So these are some examples of mobility. Again, Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra. Mahindra and Mahindra has done very well in the SUV segment, right? They have almost doubled their market share uh, in the SUV market. They also have a very big platform on the E3-wheeler side, right? They have a 60% share there. They have a 21% share in the SUV market. Again, the same for Tata. They acquired JLR. Their EVs have been very successful. They have acquired a few plants as well recently, and both these companies are extremely strong uh, when it comes to EV, which is electric vehicles, their passenger vehicles, and they're also investing for the future. I'm going to skip this. So this is my last slide in the presentation. I'm not sure whether all of you are able to see it, but this is a diagram of the markets, or this is a diagram of the Sensex from 1990 to 2024. So almost 34 years of data. And it will actually tell you the events that had happened in the past 24, 25 years, right? 34, 35 years, right? So you had the Gulf War, you had the Kuwait invasion by Iraq, you had the Asian financial crisis, you had the Great Financial Crisis. So there are almost 30, 40 events over here that actually led to a fall in the markets, right? So in fact, I tweeted out recently that there are 100 reasons not to buy equities, but there is only one reason to buy equities, which is compounding. So, I started investing in 2012. And since then, I must have heard about minimum 20 to 25 events when people said that the world was going to end, right? But it hasn't ended. So, always look at the big picture. Equities will be always there. Just like there are, there is a bumper on a road, right? There's a speed breaker on the road, right? There are a lot of speed breakers in the investing journey. So in fact, when the market falls, it's a very good time to get into the market. So, COVID, which actually saw the Nifty index going to 25, 27,000, now it's back to 80,000, right? So make sure to look at the picture, uh, down for you to invest in the market. Just imagine if you would have invested during COVID lows, right? Your portfolio would be a minimum of 3x, 4x today. And yeah, so last slide. The longer the time frame, the probability of you having a negative return becomes close to zero. So if you have a 1 day investing time horizon, you have a 50% chance of a loss. If it is 1 year, you have a 25% chance of a loss. If it's 3 years, it's just 7%. And for 5 years, 7 years, and 10 years, it's almost close to 0%. So make sure that you have a long-term mindset and you invest for the long term. And with that, I will close my session and I'll take some questions now. So, Manda Parab has asked, like, what are some good tax-saving investments, right? So, number one is, of course, ELSS. And in that, maybe you can look at a ELSS fund like a Kotak or a Mirai. So, I think these are good investments, good ELSS. And full disclosure, I am also invested in them. Not a recommendation, but you can just go back and check if it works for you. So Minla has a very good question that ELS is applicable in the old tax regime, and if government phases it out in the next few years, then what options are we left with? So uh, unfortunately, us time pe, if the government phases it out, then I think ELSS will have no utility at all. And I think that's a question we'll have to look at when this actually happens. McKinney again, Sun Pharma, you're asking about it. Sorry, I can't answer. Mohan Panse has a recommendation to conduct more such sessions in the future, and definitely I'll do that if NISM gives me the chance. Thank you. Vijay has a question that how can we beat inflation in future if it's going higher, so our return should going higher. See, the thing is, Vijay, inflation in India is at the index that comes is at like 6-7%. Medical inflation is like 10-11%. Education inflation is again like a 10 to 15%. So see, the thing is, not all of your costs are towards healthcare and not all of your costs are towards education, right? So a blended inflation should be somewhere in the range of say 7 to 10%. And a simple equity index fund or SIP will give you say in returns in the range of say 14.5 to 17-18%. So आप comfortably inflation को beat कर रहे हो, right? So yeah, if I have Ayushman Bharat card, so I need to buy health insurance. Uh, so Ayushman Bharat may just check what kind of cover you have because I feel that see healthcare costs are very high. So make sure that you at least have a cover of health insurance cover of 50 lakhs to a crore. Uh, a lot of people have asked that to share the presentation. I will definitely do that. So how to study the sectors and company in comparison with others? See, Praveen, the thing is, whenever you talk about investing, the first and foremost point that you have to check is about growth. Is the sector actually going to grow from here? Uh, what is the kind of setup over there? Is the government intervention very high? Is the government rule very high? Uh, are good profits to be made from here? So that's your first level check. आपने sector select किया and then you select the sector leader or the company that you want to invest in. Any good healthcare provider suggestions? Milna, the thing is, see, यहाँ पे I think Max Bupa is good, HDFC is good. Just make sure that whatever health insurance you buy, make sure that you take care of three things. Number one, there should be no copay, there should be no room rent limit, and number three, there should be no specified limits on diseases. So what I mean by copay is that some insurers have a clause saying that it's a 20% copay. So assuming that you get some health emergency tomorrow, right, and you have to pay 100 rupees, 20% copay means that 20 rupees has to be paid by you. Now the thing is, see, you're buying health insurance because you don't want to pay from your own pocket. So make sure that there is no copay, there is no room rent limit, and there is no specified limit on any diseases. If someone is starting equity research for DIY investment, what is the recommendation? So I think this is a philosophical question, but there are a few books that you can start out with. What I will do is that after this presentation ends, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to send my presentation, and at the same time, I'm going to give you a checklist of items that you can do to actually start your own equity research journey. So this is a list of videos and books that you can go through to start your own DIY investment journey. So which sectors are likely to lead the bullion in India growth story? I think Amay ji, I just gave you a few examples of that, but just to repeat myself, I think it would be manufacturing, electronics, financials, energy, mobility, etc., etc. So Shivam ji has a question saying taxation of 1 lakh plus in a financial year means no, I think your logic over there is incorrect. I'll send the presentation. I think that should clarify it for you. So which is the best course for learning stock market? I think the best course for learning stock market is to invest yourself, make some profits, make some losses. I think nothing teaches you markets more than when you face a loss or a profit and when you actually keep getting seasoned. A reliable website where we get research data. I think Tijori, Finance, Screener are really good websites for looking at companies or screening companies. So I'll just take last two questions. So Farooq has a very interesting question. Do you want a solution-oriented fund or normal equity fund in mutual funds? So Farooq, I think it's a brilliant question because assuming that you have a small child, so I think a fund like a SBI Magnum Children Benefit Fund can do very well. Assuming that you are a 30-year-old and you have a few goals in mind, just normal goals, right? So what you can do is that you can construct a mutual fund portfolio of 3 to 5 funds, and then you can actually continue doing those funds. But I think uh, solution oriented funds and normal equity funds both are really good and both can be looked at. Again, I have gotten a few messages for doing more sessions. I'll definitely do it. Thank you so much, guys. Guys, quickly, I'll take the last question, please, and then yeah. Is it a good idea to follow equity debt ratio from balanced advantage funds? See, balanced advantage funds, uh, I think that maybe you want to rephrase that question because the question is not making sense. So, okay, guys, I think I'll end it with that. I think till the end, I have seen people, I've seen 500 plus people. So thank you so much for joining in. I think the kind of questions that were also asked were brilliant. And I thank you again for taking out your valuable time on a weekday. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining us today as a speaker. It's not only the Zoom wherein we have seen 500 participants. We are also live, as I said, on LinkedIn. So we
Yeah.
have there close to 400 plus participants on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
And all the participants, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the session. Please keep on visiting NISM website. And there are few participants who asked about the program wherein they can get into NISM or get into the securities market. So we just like to highlight that we have come up with a new course, which is postgraduate program in investment and securities market. I will share the link here for that program. I request all the participants to go through that. And since we had Aditya here and we itself have seen that how securities market has, currently we have seen the MFs and everything, how it
So
works and everything.
sorry to cut you off, Harshada ji, but I just want to add over here that, I think NISM is one of the only colleges in the country which offers you pure equity focused, pure financial market focused courses. So make sure that you try to take advantage of it. And when we talk about the financial markets, I think there is a place here for everyone. So it's not as if the place is very shallow and there is no place for anyone. I feel as the markets keep maturing, right? Today we are at just 4 to 5% of household savings in the equity market. This percentage will go to 10-20%. This will require a lot of professionals to come into the field. This will also mean that there's a lot of money to be made. So either which ways, try to take benefit of that. I think Harshita ji has shared the link as well for the course. And not just that, I think NISM has a state-of-the-art campus. So not just curricular activities, but you can also do a lot of extracurricular activities there. So definitely try to take advantage of it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you all the participants. Aditya, hoping for more such webinars in future for sure. We'll definitely get in touch. And participants, as far as the certificate is concerned, we shall be sharing the certificate within 1 or 2 working days for sure. So don't worry about it. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you all.